All right, back talking with NFL player Jared Allen from Jared Allen's Homes for Wounded Warriors. So, Jared, uh, we actually have a niece. My wife's niece works for the Cleveland Browns now, and she's involved in the community outreach. Like she's the one going out with the players to the local schools and communities, that kind of thing. Great job. She loves it. And I'm curious we always see NFL players doing great things out in the community and stuff. I always wonder, like, are they just doing this completely on their own? Like it was their idea? The NFL must have programs. I'm curious from a player's perspective, how does the NFL approach that and get players out into the community and doing those kinds of things? What's that like from a player's perspective?
So the NFL as a whole, they kind of have like, I mean, I don't know if it's still the United Way, but they've always had a like an overall kind of charity effort that they go for. But
Mm-hmm.
really, it's based on each team, and like you said, each team has a community outreach department,
Okay.
right? And you have your community leaders. So a lot of times the teams will plan like maybe a monthly deal and stuff like that, or even can be weekly, where they get a lot of the younger guys out into the community to go, like you said, go read at the schools, go do this. But they're always there for players to come and say, "Hey, I want to do this," right? And then they'll help them find that out. So the NFL does a really good job. There's a lot of resources available for players who want to be active in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Each organization tends to have like a minimum standard of of what they're going to do, and that's usually team based. You have to tell your wife's niece to tell Kevin Stefanski hello. He's an old coach of mine.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I will.
so there's a Cleveland Brown connection there.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, so that is a very good focus, and I think every team understands that the fan base is obviously what drives the NFL, right? And so from a core corporate structural level, like every organization really does try to do a good job of a getting their players visible in a positive light and giving back to the community, right? Because we know much is given, much is expected, and we do take so much from those communities,
Mm-hmm.
just from a support system, right? Obviously game days, and you live in those communities, and we're really counting on the fans. They drive the economics of the NFL. So any chance you get to get back in the community and do something on a positive note and let the fans know that you appreciate them on a different level. The NFL does a good job of providing resources for that. And like I said, each team is kind of different on what their avenues are,
Mm-hmm.
but from a whole NFL shield perspective, it's very important. And they do provide any resources for anybody that wants to go as deep as you want to go.
So for you personally, you founded Jared Allen's Home for Wounded Warriors. Uh, Give us the background on that and how you got started there.
Yeah, so I come from a military family. My grandfather was 23 years in the United States Marine Corps. My little brother
Hoorah.
was a Marine. I mean, my whole family was Marine. I got an uncle that was like 36 years in the
Awesome.
Air Force. My dad played football. That's the only reason I went the football route. Everybody else in the family went military route. They followed grandpa. Um, so, I've always had such a love and a passion for our military and a respect for our military. I've always known that they were the reasons that I was able to do and accomplish what I wanted to do and live out my American dream. So in 2009, I went on a USO tour over to, like I mentioned earlier, to Iraq and Kuwait. And when I came back, I had a buddy who was in the Army a few years earlier mentioned there was a gap in adaptive housing. So when I came back in 2009, I realized like, okay, I need to do something to give back to my country, right? These men and women, they sacrificed even, I mean, I think that was the biggest wake up for me was that when I saw just, husband, wives, daughters, brothers, sisters, you're there for 14 months sometimes, right? You may get a
Mm-hmm.
phone call a week, sometimes communication is spotty, depending on what your job is,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what you're doing there. So just the daily sacrifices. And I remember there was a husband and wife, they were both deployed together, but one outranked the other, right? So they weren't
Yeah.
actually allowed to even like fraternize with each other. Otherwise they would lose a rank. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, just seeing the simple things that we take for granted that were sacrifices over there, right? Really made me really, focus on when I got back. I wanted to make sure when our men and women came home that they had their slice of the American dream. And so I learned about the gap in adaptive housing. And so that's where we chose to jump in. And, we started Jared Allen's Homes for Wounded Warriors in 2009. I didn't want to just write a check. I wanted to make a sustainable difference in the lives of these men and women coming home.
Awesome.
And we learned as we went, we
Yeah.
had some successes, we had some failures. years, but we've been cranking. I think we're close to 30 homes, done. And so what we
Great.
do is we build handicap accessible homes for wounded vets coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan, and that they're specific to the injuries and needs of those individuals. And then we give it to them free and clear, no mortgage, nothing like that, when it's all said and done. And so, we to be honest, we didn't even know the impact we were going to have on the military community when we did that.
Yeah.
And you talk about purpose, what that did. And I never forget. So Corey Remsburg was one of our recipients, and his dad told us one time, he said, man, every time Corey has a bad day. So Corey was the Army Ranger.
Yeah.
President Obama announced him at the uni years ago. He got a standing ovation, but he was on like 10 deployments. Corey was an elite of the elite, soldiers, right? And he had some severe TBI on an accident.
Right.
But his dad told us, he said, every time Corey has a bad day, I'd take him over to the house, right? And I was kind of like, Don, and Corey was probably on, he was maybe in our first 5 homes that we had done. And what he said, he's like, it's his, that this house is it's his independence back. Right. So these alpha males, they come home, and alpha females, they come home from being injured, and, they're used to taking care of themselves. They're used to doing things. They're used to being,
Right.
the ones getting things done. Now they come home, and some of them live in a basement of a relative. Some of them are, the VA will put them in apartments that aren't handicap accessible, right? They do the bare minimum. And so the stressors of life come on them. And now these people have people doing things for them that they want to do themselves. So, if you're trying to learn how to walk, talk, think again, based on some of these injuries, and you can't even move around your domicile freely and comfortably, like the added stress it puts on. And so what we saw was a huge psychological shift in our recipients. And, when talking with Corey's dad over those years, he made it realize, he was like, man, this is a sign of independence. This is him being back on his own. This is him getting back his bravado, and we saw that with a lot. We've had, recipients on the suicide watch list, and now they're married with multiple kids. And it's because, again, they found that purpose, or they realized, like, the pendulum swung back, right? So they're learning their new normalcy. And when, for me, the reason we decided to build handicap accessible homes, because I was like, all right, what is my American dream? My American dream is a functional home for me and my family, right? Like, I want, white picket fence, 2.5 kids and a dog, whatever
Yeah.
that picture of American dream is, but it's always centered around your home, right? And home is supposed to be your most secure place at your most vulnerable time, right? I mean, that's the whole point of where we choose to live, why we choose to live, for kids, neighborhoods, all this it's for security. It's that sense of calm that you can just brush the day off. And so, that's what we really focused on, and that's what we've been able to deliver. And we've had great partners now, and we kind of just been cranking along since 2009. And we're a small organization, and we do big work, and we're very family oriented. We still talk to all of our recipients, and we got Bobby Body. We just gave him a house, and he's going to be in the Paralympics for weightlifting. So, I mean, the stories are just inspiring. And I say it every time. Every time we do a key ceremony, and I get to meet our recipients and spend some time with them, it just humbles you to your core, because the number one thing we hear is someone always deserves it more than them, right? And their drive and the injuries that they fight through would bury some people. And they push through, and they have a positive attitude, and it really does. It humbles you, and it just makes you realize, like, that's the core fabric of this country. That's what this country is about. That's what they're fighting for. They're fighting for that hope, right? They're fighting for freedom. They're fighting for the right to dream. And so, for me and my family, we'll support the military till we're off this earth.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. Hey, if somebody's interested to get more info on Jared Allen's Homes for Wounded Warriors, how do they do that?
Yeah, you can go to homesforwoundedwarriors.com or Jared Allen's homesforwoundedwarriors.com. Our site's up there. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple.
Awesome. Awesome.
I would
Okay,
say
so
check out all the social medias, but I don't even know. I don't do social media very well, so I have to call Amanda.
Just
So
Google it. They'll find you.
yeah, Google it. It's out there.
Hey, so I got a business question, entrepreneur question for you. I've had a number of nonprofits on the show, and I always like to hear from their perspective, because before I started this podcast, I was looking at starting a nonprofit, and I'm like, I kind of want to go the for-profit route. I don't want to be involved in running a nonprofit for a number of different reasons. But I'd had some friends that had been kicked out of their own nonprofit by the board,
Yeah.
just didn't fit my mantra for what I was looking to do. But so you're running a nonprofit. You founded your own nonprofit. Can you talk a little bit about the business aspects of it, or
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
like the not so pretty parts of it, or I'm in the fundraising business,
Well,
not
that's
that
so
kind of
that's what
stuff, you know?
absolutely you're
Yeah.
spot on that, right? So and I'll differentiate too. So there's two forms of nonprofits, right? There's your fund, and then there's
Uh-huh.
your, and they're both 501c3s, right? But one's a fund based and one is a 501 like mission based, right?
Right.
So we're a 501c3, we're a mission based um, nonprofit to where our funds have to go, we have to state our mission statement and our funds have to go directly toward it. So like our mission statement is we build handicap accessible homes for wounded veterans coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan. That is our scope of work, right?
Great.
You have to be injured in Iraq or Afghanistan during combat. You have to be paralyzed, amputee, TBI, that's debilitating blindness. There's certain criteria
Mm-hmm.
that fit around there. So that's number one is really diving in and narrowing your mission down. Right now, a fund can gather money. If I was Jared Allen's Homes for Wounded Warriors Fund or just fund, Jared Allen's fund, then basically I would raise money and then I would divvy that out to other nonprofits or
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits would come. So we do receive money from other funds, like the Home Depot Foundation is a good partner of
Sure.
ours, right? So that's a
Okay.
fund, and they write checks to other nonprofits that fit within their core scope of what they
Yeah.
align with. But we are mission based, so we everything we do drives around military and building homes for wounded vets coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be very specific in that. And one thing, starting out was I never wanted to say no to people. So we have to make sure our guidelines are. I don't ever want people to go through my process, application process, and then be told no. You have enough struggles in your life.
Yeah.
So we've been really cognizant of setting up our application process so you you don't get through if you don't qualify,
Okay.
right? So there's no false hope. And
Sure.
but the struggles of it are, yeah, I mean, it's just a nonprofit is just like any other business, right? Except you all your profits go back to your cause. Obviously, we have an executive director; he gets paid. We have I only have 3 employees.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but you have to raise money, and then our 990s are basically your public records of what you do with your funds, right? From your
Yep.
marketing expenses to this, that, and the other. And we try to be within 85 to 90% of every. So what that means is
Mm-hmm.
85 to 90 cents of every dollar raised goes directly into our projects.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
and
great.
the IRS, to be honest, the IRS is thresholds very low, and a lot of nonprofits operate in some marginal areas, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Our philosophy when we set out is that our brand will never get bigger than our purpose, right? And you
Mm.
see that a lot. And I think, and that's the
Yep.
big thing is when you, especially in the nonprofit world, because raising money can become that drive. I mean, being a $50 million raise, a $5 million raise, you start, I raised 5 million. Now I want to raise 10. Well, now I want to raise this. And it's that same competitive drive. It's the same way on the profit side, right? I made
Right.
5 million this year. I want to make 10 million. I want a $30 million company for you. So that drive can be the same, but then what happens is your brand gets bigger than your cause, and now you're solely focused on being this fundraising machine. And now you're hiring, you're doing all these advertising, you're hiring people to raise more money, but that money's not going to your cause. And you got
Mm-hmm.
to be careful. So we've set very strict limits from an organizational standpoint to where that'll never happen. And you really have to hire the right people. And so fundraising is also different from the standpoint of a product. So for example, I've had a lot of people come to think, oh, I want to raise money. I want to do this, and smart people. Raising money is a different beast because you're
Yep.
not selling anything. You're selling your dream. You're selling your passion. I need you to believe in what I believe in and then write me a check.
Yep.
That's all there is to it. I don't have a product. There's no really return on your investment other than the
Mm-hmm.
goodwill you're seeing done with with our recipients, right? I mean, that's enough. You get people to our tea ceremonies, they love it. And so you got to understand that fundraising philosophy. There's two ways to raise money, in my opinion. You beat people over the head till they write you a check and they want you to go away, or they genuinely believe in your cause and they're all in, right?
Yeah.
And so we try to go with number two. And so when I first started this, though, like luckily for me, I had a platform. I had some buddies where owed me a favor, and I was like, hey, I need a check, bro. So, but the real difficulty is what you have to understand is that it's there's no room for you can't be a fraud. That's what you have to genuinely believe in your cause, right? And
Right.
and the people you hire have to genuinely believe in your cause. Because if you're sitting there asking someone for $100 to 200,000 to $1 million, whatever that price is, if they don't believe that you believe it, you're never going to get it, right?
Yeah.
And then it's about being good stewards with your money and making sure you have the hard cuts of, hey, like for me, we never there's you can get grants based on who you have in your pipeline and what we do in our space.
Hmm.
And I won't do that. We never approve a recipient until I already have the money and the house is already funded. Right.
Wow. That's
Now, lucky
awesome.
for in-kind donations spend like cash in a lot of ways, right? Because if
Hmm.
I get windows donated, that takes off my bottom line, all that stuff. So we have great partners that we've managed to get over the years, but it is that struggle because, like you said, it's not like a normal sales pitch. I can go in there and I'm going to talk to them about saving veterans' lives and building homes and this and how we're going to use your product. But at the end of the day, I have to be like, so you in or you out? There's no way. Let me get a couple. Let me see how they fly off the shelves. We'll dip our
Yeah.
toe in the water. You either got to be in or you're out because there's no middle ground there.
Yep.
And then the toughest part for me is, and this is what I do. Not all good money is, not all money is good money, right? So
Right.
I've cut some very big sponsors loose, some very big partners loose over the years because they didn't align with our core values and they didn't align, with our mission statement. And for me, that is the number one thing. I won't let our foundation become the inside sales team for someone's product. And if you, and then for myself, being a retired athlete, you're constantly trying to, manage that barrier of, are they trying to get my likeness for something, or do they genuinely believe in my cause? And
Yeah.
so for that, so we run that strict, and I'm again, we put a lot of, I'm like Wayne's World, right? If you build it, they will come. So we roll on those principles, and it's tough sometimes because we always joke about no good deed goes unpunished because we're building homes. So at the end of the day, it's still construction,
Hmm.
right? You have hiccups, you have fraudulent contractors, you have people doing dumb stuff. It doesn't matter that it's given. And even sometimes we got to get with our recipients like that. You can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, this is public money. So we have to be even better stewards than most people. And that's where people get caught, right? It's they for a for-profit business, you got some extra expenditures, you can go ahead and you write that off, or maybe you get it out of petty cash, you get it on the back end. For nonprofit business, every dollar we earn is public money, right? Every dollar
Yeah.
has to be accounted for, and we have to be good stewards of that. And so, yeah, there's a lot of similarities with for-profit and nonprofit when it comes down to the organizational structure and what you're doing. But the hiccups come with you have to be bold, you have to be passionate, you have to fully believe in your cause to get people to believe in it. And then like I said, we're very mission driven, so we have to be very careful of, you can't start. It doesn't take long. You can get down one. You can be like, I think this works, and the next thing you know, you're three lanes over, and you're like, crap, I got to get back in the center lane here. And so we got that's the constant battle. It's really evaluating our partners. Strategic partnership is huge in the nonprofit world. And so, as it can be in the for-profit world, but strategic partners are for us is big because, that's where we're allowed to operate lean. And that's where we're allowed to be able to keep our margins where they are because we have great partners that fill up those buckets for us without us having to spend capital on it.
Wow. Okay, Jared, I got to hand it to you. There are a lot of guys in your position that could be the figurehead of an organization and just, show up and shake hands and smile. But you obviously know what you're talking about when it comes to running a nonprofit. You got your hands dirty and
Well,
all of it.
I
So
did
good
it
on
for I
you.
did it for the first so many years. I got to give credit to our executive director, Alex Alexis, good buddy of mine. I've known him. He fought in the UFC for years, so I've known him for many
Uh,
many years. And but you talk about the hardships. Like when we first brought him on, same thing. He was coming over from working out of buddies on the sales team, right? And then he's trying to raise money, and it's like, but now, and he has a background in carpentry, and he was a carpenter and stuff like that when he was younger. So when we moved him over to the project management side, all of a sudden, now money's coming in range. He understands how to talk to those people. So just like any other organization, right? You got to put your people in the right spot to succeed as well,
Yeah.
right? And then, so like our team is my buddy Alex and our good friend Amanda, and those two work great. And then our accountant, our bookkeeper Karen. But those three, and again, it's one of those things where our team works so well together, and it's because of how we've aligned our strategic partnerships. And we're also, again, you have to be. That's the best way to put this. Like you have to be so true to your like core competencies, right? That this person might have all the qualifications and ever, but if they don't fit the mold,
Hmm.
if they cannot operate within that team, and that's where like team structures come in, right? If they cannot operate, they could be the most talented person, but if they don't work well within that in that environment, you got to get rid of. Sometimes more is less, and that's kind of the approach we take. It's very much wear many hats, but make sure you're wearing them well.
Yeah, that's
And like
awesome.
I said, I'm now I'm a lot more hands off now. Our team, like I said, we have a great team in place. So I know as the chairman, I know exactly what's going on, but I don't have to do a lot of the legwork anymore.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, sometimes you got to get called in and do certain things, but and now just like anything else, it's about managing relationships because especially in
right.
the nonprofit world, the relationships are key. And so, we have fantastic relationships with Home Depot. I was able to go down there. See, I still love it because I get put in places where I get to learn more. I get to go down to speak at the head of our Home Depot corporate offices to their executives, like
Oh,
all their
great.
executive meeting teams. Like I think there's like 100, 200, executives and regional vice president, all these. And I got to meet the CEO of Home Depot. And so you sit there and you get to talk, and we're this small organization, right? Just trying to do right by people.
Yeah.
And here we are speaking in front of a Fortune 20. I think Home Depot is a Fortune 20 company, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so man, so sometimes I still just kind of look around like this is pretty cool. And you learn, you're constantly learning. And so, that's the big thing I would encourage people to, whether it's for profit, whether it's nonprofit, with that entrepreneurial spirit, hey, always be willing to learn. Don't be afraid of the work, and make sure you have the right people that have the same core value system as you in place.
That's awesome. I was just going to ask, I usually ask it, we're over time on the interview, so we got to get going, but I was going to ask, what final advice do you have to somebody looking to get into entrepreneurship? I think you
Oh
just
yeah,
answered
there you
that
go.
though.
There you go.
That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
mean, you got to be. I mean, first and foremost, right? If you don't love what you're doing, it's obvious. I always say that about football. I said, in football, one great thing about football, you cannot be a fraud. In a locker room, an alpha male locker room will weed out any fraud. Right, you will
Hmm.
get exposed if you're a fraud because the film we have saying film don't lie, and I
Yeah.
think it's in life, right? Like people know when someone shows up and they're just there for the paycheck. And
Mm.
that's fine if you're working for a major corporation and you just have your singular task. But if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to build something, you have to be all in. You have to be passionate about it because you're creating that culture, right? You're creating that brand, you're creating the energy behind it. And you want people to invest in that. And at the end of the day, most I'd say 95 people are percent of people are investing in people, not necessarily the product.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Well, hey, Jared, we do have to go. So I appreciate you being here and telling your story and especially your entrepreneurial success story. Appreciate you sharing all the details with us and everything. And look forward to seeing the future success of your Homes for Wounded Warriors.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You bet. All right. We're Oscar Mike.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.